Good morning. Welcome to 4Media and to our first Q&A live stream since the Easter break. We hope you're all still keeping safe and well, and that you're looking forward to at least another 3 weeks of lockdown. I reckon one small positive is that we're getting a bit more tech savvy. And I thought Zoom was nice lolly until all this started, and now I'm practically living my life through it. As for Vimeo and YouTube, well, let's just keep our fingers crossed for the next 30 minutes. In all seriousness, yes, this is a tough time for the PR world, but there are opportunities out there. So now it's more important than ever for us to stick together as an industry. And here at 4Media, we're trying to do our bit to help with these live stream Q&A sessions. As you probably know, we try and hold one every week, each time with a leading light from a section of the UK media. We've had over 1,000 tuning in to watch our first 3 sessions over the past month. So a big thank you to everyone who's supported us. To update you on our business at 4Media, although we're obviously all now working from home, we're still launching surveys as normal. Broadcast interviews are being facilitated remotely, and live streaming is more important now than ever. So if you need our help, anyway, please keep getting in touch. This week, we've conducted a bit of research into people's media consumption habits during this crisis, and that makes fascinating reading. I'll share a few top lines with you at the end if we've got the time. If you don't know me, I'm Alan Edwards. I'm the head of news at 4Media. I'm the former night editor of the Sun newspaper with a fairly long lifetime in Fleet Street under my belt. Between me and my team and Sam Dibley and his broadcast team, we've got a pretty comprehensive insight into the media, and we're here to help if we can. Anyway, for today's Q&A, we're very lucky to have with us Laurence Mozafari. He's the editor of Digital Spy, the UK's biggest TV and movies website. Laurence is a multi-award-winning digital editor with 10 years experience in digital publishing. He's also a host of BBC Sound's podcast, Obsessed with Peaky Blinders, and he also teaches digital journalism at City University London and at Nottingham Trent. He's also worked for the likes of NME, FHM, Sky News and the BBC, so he's got a wealth of invaluable experience to share with us. I think many of you know the drill. Lots of people have already sent in questions that I'll put to Laurence on your behalf. And there's a facility to send in questions as you go, which they should appear down the side of your screen. I'll get through as many of them as I can in the 30 minutes we have. And now, fingers crossed, my face will disappear and we can say good morning to Laurence Mozafari.
Good morning, everyone.
Laurence, how are you?
How you doing? Hello, Adam. Yeah, really good, thank you. Really good.
Good to talk to you. Good. So first of all, how has this changed the way that you work at Digital Spy? Do you have any office presence at all, or is everyone working from home?
So we started working from home fairly early. We had a drill like the week before, I think like a week or 2 before the lockdown, and then had adjusted to it quite early. So we're quite lucky in that sense. So we're all working from home. So Digital Spy is part of Hearst, which is quite a big business with like Elle and Esquire and Cosmopolitan and other titles like that. So the whole company was basically working at home sort of the week before the lockdown. And because we're a digital pure play publication, we're pretty fine in terms of operating remotely. We do it quite a lot over evenings and weekends and various points throughout the year. So we've been quite lucky, and it's benefited us in a strange way, in that, you know, lots more people have been at home, certainly since the UK lockdown, and traffic has actually increased. And obviously, you know, binging TV shows and movies and stuff is what is part of most people's pastimes generally, but now it's more so than ever. So in a strange way, it's kind of been a perfect storm for us.
So leading on from that, what does your audience actually look like now compared to before the coronavirus crisis?
It's bigger. We're already the biggest TV and movies website in the UK. As you mentioned, we're like hitting about 28 million unique users per month. But the demographics haven't shifted massively. I just think that people that used to consume the site are coming back more often. And people that were already fans of the brand are coming to us on a more regular basis. Sort of traffic has been up significantly. You can kind of see that jump from when we all started working from home. And yeah, the demographics haven't shifted massively, but I think there's just more people coming to us more regularly. And we've had some really lovely feedback too. Some people that are like praising us for being a bit of an escape from some of the more negative and obviously, you know, very serious news that are around at the minute. And we've certainly done our part on the more serious end with like coverage on like apps to use during the coronavirus lockdown that could help you, and lots of offers on free things like on Kindle, and obviously the best TV shows to watch and stuff as well. So we're trying to interpret how we can help the audience in the most natural digital spy way. But yeah, generally there's just more of them, and I think it's kind of a testament to the loyalty that our audience has, because we've been going for like 20 years now and people keep coming back. So we're obviously doing something right.
So how much has the content that you're looking for changed since the crisis began?
So I think the main ways are probably we're seeking more access. I guess on some hands it could be that there'll be less interviews going on because promotion schedules might have been paused. A lot of TV productions are on pause. You know, movies are being pushed back and stuff. But then again, a lot of the people involved with those sort of titles are going to have more time on their hands because they're not actually actively making productions. So we're certainly seeking more talent access than we ever had before. Because I think as well, certainly like with soaps as an example, you know, some of the soaps are going to be coming off air soon. So I think, you know, any actors within the soaps that have more time on their hands as those sort of storylines are put on pause, or people that perhaps used to be on soaps, the sort of people we'd be looking to access. But kind of, yeah, any interviews and video franchises we currently have, the main two being Movie of Me, where we get talent to cast their very own movie biopic and like who would play them and what characters would pop up. And we have one called Coupled Up, where we get couples or really close friends to be like quizzed in a Mr. and Mrs. quiz. We're certainly looking to carry those on and keep producing those, but just with, you know, people at home via Zoom. I think that's probably the main thing that's probably shifted. A lot of the stuff we kind of request from PRs still stands. You know, access to exclusives and video featurettes and stuff like that still absolutely stands. But I think the kind of main shift has probably been, you know, we still want video interview access and phoner access. If that is an opportunity we could take up with PRs.
You mentioned exclusives there. How important is exclusivity to you? And actually, what does that specifically mean? I mean, there are various ways you can look at exclusivity.
Yeah, I guess the most key point I can probably get across for us, because we're digital only, is about world exclusives. So we come up an issue quite a lot where we'll be given an exclusive as a UK exclusive, and UK exclusives, unfortunately, they don't exist on the internet because everyone can access everything everywhere. So had some tricky situations previously where, you know, we're giving an exclusive trailer or an exclusive image, and then lo and behold, it goes live somewhere else at the exact same time at a publication in the US because they have the US exclusive. Totally understand how that works for print, perhaps, you know, broadcast as well, but on the internet, everyone can access everything everywhere. So no such thing as a UK exclusive is what I'd always try and get across. So it has to be global. I completely understand the other side of it. You know, PRs are trying to break down their coverage and make it live the most possible ways on multiple different platforms of different publications. But yeah, that is the one I'd want to get across with exclusives. Certainly important to us. We're publishing like up to 100 a month, various ways through like interviews, exclusive video clips and trailers. I think if you want to secure an exclusive with us, the kind of main ways are interview access. Another one would be trailers and featurettes, especially if we can host those on social. So we run quite a lot of those on our Facebook page and on Twitter, promoting new movies, TV shows. Occasionally we'll do them sort of for tangential things, perhaps like food brands or tech products, if there's a really funny spin on them that kind of ties it back to entertainment. I think the key thing is, you know, we live and breathe entertainment and TV and movies. So if there's a way that perhaps like there was an advert that went live over Christmas where they remade ET again and reunited the cast, that's kind of a nice entertainment tie-in, even though it's for like a tech connection.
Yeah, so I suppose at this time as well, I mean, e-commerce is quite important with everybody now. I mean, we're all doing everything online. How do PRs kind of secure coverage for that with you? What's the best way they can go about that?
Yeah, completely. So e-commerce is probably the most natural in for our tech coverage nowadays. So by that, I mean, you know, products that are purchased online through editorial. So a lot of our gaming coverage, our tech coverage in terms of like mobile phones, broadband deals, laptops, tablets and stuff like that, we'll be trying to compile the best deals. So a lot of that will be through like SEO features. So we've got one rolling feature on like best broadband deals, which we update every month as they kind of shift around. Certainly if there's like a mobile phone deal that includes Disney Plus or like a streaming service package, I think there's one with O2 that went live recently, we certainly cover that within news. So we have a partnership with Skimlinks, as lots of other publishers do. And so I think if a product is on Skimlinks and it's within a partnership within Hearst, then we're probably more likely to cover it if it's a fit with the brand. So if it's a good tech product, you know, sits well with entertainment, or it's an entertainment product like a games console or a DVD, or if it's like a, you know, an annual pass to a cinema or something like that, and it's partnered with Skimlinks, that's probably more likely to secure coverage from us, because you know, it's a natural part of digital publishing nowadays, and it's certainly gaining traction sort of prior to the coronavirus pandemic. But I think it's, you know, diversifying revenues is more important than ever, and e-commerce is quite a strong way that we're doing that.
And we talk about tech stories. What's the best way that people can pitch those to you? How do you like to get those pitches?
Always like an email. I have a landline at work, but in normal times I'm away from my desk in meetings and various other things a lot of the time. So I think email is normally best. I do have a bit of a pet peeve of being chased on my mobile if it's, you know, not essential. There's nothing worse than being in an important meeting, having a phone call, and it's, you know, did you see this? We've made someone's face out of some macaroni or something. You're like, it's not the time. So yeah, you know, if it's a close PR that I'm working on with an ongoing project with, and it's a big story, you know, a WhatsApp I'd extend to, but generally I think emails are best. In terms of landing them, especially like with e-commerce and tech, the things that would be really helpful for us is extra offers that we can put on top. So if there's a product that you're pushing that is offering free postage as well, or there's an exclusive percentage discount, we've done that occasionally, where, you know, use Digital Spy's code, which has been created, and you can save an extra 10%. Or if there's like free items included with the deal, that can be another way of us, you know, giving extra value to the reader and making them want to pick it up more. And also just as much of a heads up as possible. And this goes for, you know, entertainment content or tech. Knowing about it having as much of a heads up as possible is really, really key. So I think, for instance, the Galaxy tablet launch recently was kind of like on the days when we found out, and certainly in terms of planning ahead and definitely securing coverage, as much of a heads up as possible. And it doesn't always have to be that, you know, you've guaranteed the exclusive to us and that's why you're telling us beforehand. It could be that, just so you know, this is dropping, you know, next week at 12. Here's the press release under embargo, but you can only run on the embargo. That gives us more time to prep. You know, we're publishing sort of 80 to 100 stories a day, and various different topics and various different channels within the site. So as much of a heads up as possible is really, really key.
So what's a good amount of time? Maybe a week more?
Oh, a week. What a luxury that would be. Yeah, a week would be lovely. 24 hours is normally the sort of lead time we generally get. But yeah, if you could give me a week, I'll be very happy.
Well, I've got a question coming in live now from Yasmin saying, are you interested in live stream content while production is on pause?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's something that other brands at Hearst have definitely jumped on more so since you know, the current events have been unfolding. It's something that we've done quite a lot in the past at Digital Spy. So around this time last year, we were doing our Game of Thrones live stream. So we were reviewing episodes of the show at 10 p.m. after the UK broadcast, and chatting with fans about what's happening, giving away prizes. And it was kind of like a live review, trying to capture that excitement around the massive TV talking point and getting people engaged in it all at the same time. And we've done quite a few before with like interviews with Love Islanders and things around the Great British Bake Off. So we've got quite a long lineage of doing live stream stuff. Since we've been working at home, we've mainly been pivoting to kind of continue our video franchises that I mentioned before, things like Movie with Me and Coupled Up, as well as our YouTube content. So certainly not against it, but I think it would have to have the right sort of exclusivity to it. So I think talent access, we might consider doing it for that. If there was a really good bit of talent access we could have and do it via a live interview would be one option. I think for us, the most natural way of doing live video content at the minute will probably be a quiz. But then again, we're kind of cautiously, we don't want to jump into anything just for the sake of it. The fact is that loads of people are doing quizzes naturally with their friends at the minute. I'm invited to several this weekend. So you want to really add extra value, and we're very, very analytical at Digital Spy. So everything that we do, we assess in terms of stats and output, and we really want to make sure that there's a user requirement for it. We don't want to do anything for the sake of it, because the fact is lots more people are doing live streams. And I don't know about you, but there's lots of live streams on Instagram, and I don't think I've engaged with a good one yet. And a lot of the best ones are directly with talent that are performing straight onto Instagram or doing a workout plan. So definitely open to it. It depends on the what is actually involved. And I guess the other point I'd make is that we're about to run quite a big user survey. So we have this thing called the reader panel, where we've got quite an engaged audience of Digital Spy fans, and we're assessing all these different content options we have given the UK lockdown, and we're putting it to our most engaged users, and we'll be running that survey on site as well. So we're kind of talking to them about things like live streams and how they want content in different ways, so we can sort of take that data and feedback and give the audience what they really want, rather than trying to go on a gut feeling.
Yeah. Then so you mentioned talent there. What another question coming. What sort of talent really appeals to you? I know that's a bit of a how long's a piece of string question, but the kind of people that you're really interested in.
Yeah, definitely. So TV and movie and soap are the kind of like the key 3 pillars for us across the site. So if it's a TV star, movie star, or someone within soaps, that will definitely make you more likely to secure something with us. To a lesser extent, showbiz stars, I think people that are connected to reality TV, obviously I've mentioned we do a lot of stuff with Love Islanders, we might consider them for more like general news pieces, but certainly, the ITV daytime ilk sort of people are really good for us, and people like Rylan. And then beyond that, if you haven't got access to sort of in front of camera talent, then we do consider like producers and directors and writers, certainly when they're connected to TV, movies and soap. Ideally, we'd always want the front of camera A-list talent, but certainly the others will always be considered, because a lot of the time, they know the ins and outs, they know what's coming up for follow-up seasons and films, and they can give you the sort of real juicy answers. But ideally, we'd have a combo of both.
Yeah. So another little question there. This one's from somebody from 4media. This is from Sophie Parkin. What's been the most popular piece of content on Digital Spy since the lockdown? Come on, that's a tough question.
I do know it, thankfully. So yeah, I think the one that broke out for us initially was Matt Baker. So we cover the One Show quite a lot on evenings, and he was in the process of leaving the One Show, and he also fell ill with coronavirus around that time. So I think it was updates around his condition, and I think it was his co-presenter saying that he's really ill at the minute. That really took off for us. I think it was a number of reasons. I think it's not that our readers absolutely love Matt Baker and everything about Matt Baker does well. I think it was those very early days of, okay, so Matt Baker's unwell, it's a high profile celebrity that's not very well. How is it going to impact the show? How is it going to impact him leaving the show anyway, because he's kind of out of contract and moving on? And I think that is the trend that we're seeing, is that it's how does coronavirus impact the TV and entertainment that our users love? It's not necessarily the showbiz element of, oh, the celebrity is unwell. It's kind of what's that going to mean, the impact of that to the industry and to TV and entertainment. So that was a really big one. And beyond that, we keep getting quite big success with fan theories and plot holes around movies. So obviously, one challenge we're facing at the minute is a lot of productions are being delayed, movies are being pushed back, TV productions are being pushed back. So we're looking into our sort of biggest franchises that always deliver for us, things like Marvel and Star Wars, and kind of picking out plot holes and really good Easter eggs and trivia that people already love these franchises, and digging out this trivia and re-delivering it to them. So there's been some really good takes on those that have taken off for us as well. And aside from that, Tiger King, I mean, who hasn't been writing about Tiger King lately? Tiger King has been delivering for us in a really good way. Yeah.
Great. Moving on a bit now, I've got a question here from Sam Munton. What are your thoughts on surveys? How can they be appealing for consumer tech?
So with surveys, we run quite a big one ourselves every year, the Digital Spy Reader Awards, where we sort of talk about the best in tech, TV, movies, actors and stuff from across the year. So we really run quite a big survey ourselves. I think it's got to show something really surprising and shocking, and have quite a decent number of votes to it. I think if it's only 100 or 200, it's going to be a bit of a harder push. So I think a really sizable pool of survey people that have been surveyed, and I think having surprising findings is the really key thing. So I see plenty come through that are like, here are the top 3 Netflix shows, and it's coming up, Stranger Things is number 1, or The Witcher is really popular. That's not really telling us anything we don't know, and also it's so long after the fact. So I certainly think that with those in particular, any data that can be legitimately provided around maybe viewing figures on some of those streaming platforms that don't report them could be an interesting in. But a lot of the time they still do need to be verified and have some sort of legitimacy to them. So yeah, surveys can be of interest. I think it's just got to have a really interesting, pertinent finding to them.
Yeah, I think I would concur with that. I mean, I think we always find that we would need, say, 2,000 respondents to make it worthwhile. And also, you need a good top line to make it interesting if you're going to want to use it. I absolutely get that. Moving on slightly. So, did I hear that you were producing a new podcast?
Yes, yeah. So obviously, as you mentioned, I worked on the Peaky Blinders podcast for the BBC last year. So hopefully, when production kicks off on that, I'll be working on that again, maybe like next year. But Digital Spy is working on our own podcast. I'm not sure I'm absolutely allowed to say what the concept is just yet. But Hearst is kind of expanding more into podcasts at the minute. We've already got one for Runners World, Women's Health, and for Cosmopolitan as well. So it's definitely going to be focused around entertainment. We're kind of working on a basis of delving into like retro entertainment, things that people already love. And if there is talent access opportunities around that, we'd be absolutely more than happy to hear about them. But I think the concept we're running with is without talent access to start with, and we could easily fold that in if it did appear. We, again, kind of like with everything we do, I mean, now is a natural time to be like, okay, lots more people at home, they've got lots more time on their hands, let's launch a podcast. But we really want to do things at the right time, and obviously that's an extra bit of production that we need to thread into the current team by doing that. So we're talking to our audience about that through the survey that we're doing. I think it could realistically launch in the next month or two, and it's something that was already in the works prior to the UK lockdown. But yeah, so it's looking positive. Got a concept. We've got our first 6 episodes planned out. We know who's doing it. One challenge we had to face was that getting kit out to everybody, because obviously we're looking to use a studio prior to the lockdown, so we might have to launch, doing something similar to this to launch with and have a duvet over our heads like everyone's having to do on podcasts at the minute. But yeah, so getting the tech sorted is one hurdle we're getting over at the minute. So the best way to probably get involved with that, if someone was interested, is via talent access that is either connected to one of the old franchises that we're covering, or if you've got some talent that particularly loves a certain franchise, we could definitely pivot an episode towards them talking about that. And I think the other thing will be commercial sponsorship. That probably sits a bit beyond PR.
Yeah, great. So question here from David Cohen, which is probably a bit of a more serious question. How well do you think the media will weather coronavirus? Because staff cutbacks and furloughs are cropping up regularly, ad revenues are dropping. What's your take on the wider landscape?
It depends on the publication, I guess. I certainly know that there's some publications that were probably having a tough time prior to this, and it certainly hasn't helped. I'm really happy to say that Hearst is in a really, really good place at the minute. I feel very fortunate for the situation that we're in compared to maybe some other publications. I think that there's kind of a bit of a lag, I guess, in some senses, in that advertising is slowing down and lots more people are being cautious around advertising anything to do with COVID. And obviously the thing that everyone is talking about is COVID. So that's one impact. I think further down the line, there's obviously going to be knock-on effects of certain projects that have been put on pause or things that haven't rolled out, which might have been having commercial spend behind them. And that would have been, continuing to fund the media. I think there'll be a definite loss in some publications, which is going to be a massive shame. I think we need good, strong, true journalism with integrity more than ever. I think certainly this has made everybody value places like the BBC and the Guardian more than ever. So I think I think this, it's going to be hard to know exactly how things will pan out. But I think hopefully it will give some value to maybe some people that have lost trust in journalism, for the people that are doing it in the right way and not just scaremongering. But hopefully I think as well there might be some positive points in that some people might be launching new kinds of content in different ways that might not have happened before. So there's people that are launching podcasts, personally, people might start YouTube streaming or doing things on Instagram. So there might be more like individual content creators that kind of start doing it off their own back, and we might see new emerging content platforms we might not have had before. I certainly think in terms of business, I imagine lots of businesses will realize, we are able to run our operation from home remotely. So maybe they don't need all those big expensive offices. And I think in the long term, we'll be seeing some really interesting ways of, maybe there might be companies that everyone just kind of works at home remotely in order to sort of save costs and not need a big expensive building. And what that will mean for the workplaces, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think inevitably there will be publications that will be hit by this, but hopefully there'll also be new content creators that will come out of it as well.
For PRs, do you think how would you consider this as being a good time for PRs to get their message out there? And do they particularly have to be quite careful about the tone of what they come up with in the current climate?
I think it depends on what sort of sector that you're in. I mean, lifestyle is still chugging along as it ever was. There's a huge explosion in like home workouts and wellness, and people are focusing on like buying plants and doing DIY and stuff. So there's certainly plenty of sectors that people will be working with PR that wouldn't feel out of place to be talking about at the minute. I guess the sort of danger area is maybe trying to crowbar the content that you're talking about into some sort of coronavirus theme in order to make it more interesting to people. I think if it's genuinely interesting, it would be picked up anyway. And I think that there's so much going on that's impacted by the pandemic that I don't think you necessarily have to tag it on that. But yeah, I think you kind of got to use it's a case by case basis, isn't it? It's whether it feels tonally appropriate. But what I would say is that, people are picking up more hobbies than ever. And I think a lot of that lifestyle stuff, and I guess what you might consider more like frivolous stuff, is completely valuable. People need levity, people need things to spend their pastimes on. So that doesn't feel like the wrong sort of thing to be pushing. And certainly for, our audience on Digital Spy, TV and movies is what we cover before this, is what we're covering during this, is what we're covering afterwards. So certainly that is a perfect fit for us at any time.
Great, good advice. I think just probably will be the final question now. Are there any areas where you're struggling for content?
Any areas where we're struggling for content? I think not at present. As I say, things are doing really, really well in terms of traffic and output at the minute. I think there will be, it might be a little bit trickier down the line. Soaps are particularly going to be affected by the coronavirus pandemic, and that they'll be coming off air. A lot of movies are being pushed back, and we've had a lot of success delving back into evergreen content and into like nostalgic films. I think TV might be okay because some productions are ending, but equally, broadcasters are finding new ways to put out new kinds of TV in this new normal. So I think soaps is a particular one where we might struggle, and I think the movie industry particularly. I think in terms of gaming, Last of Us 2 was quite a big title that we would have covered a lot, and would have been a big win for us, but that's been pushed back, and I think that could potentially set the precedent where lots of computer games are also going to be pushed back because they want to do a big launch, they want to make as much money from the launch as possible, obviously. So I think it depends on how long the lockdown goes on for, and how much longer things keep getting delayed until some things have been pushed back to November, but if we're not back to normality by then, it might have to push over till next year. So yeah, I think certainly soaps is probably the obvious one for us right now. So if you've got an ex-soap star that's on your books that you're working with, definitely give us a shout. And I think talent access, again, to mention that again, I think is probably the key one for us at the minute. But no big gaps at the minute, which I'm happy to say.
Really finally, is there any sort of story that you really have got plenty of, you really don't want to see any more of that?
I think I get a lot of, I probably get a lot of survey content and a lot of a lot of probably irrelevant tech interviewees that are obviously on someone's books and they're still trying to push and they don't quite fit right for us. So, I think any journalist from any publication will tell you, if you have a proper good look at the publication that you're pitching to and just think, does that sit right? Do I see that person anywhere else? I keep having the same people pitch back to us that are maybe like wellness influencers or someone that's taken up fitness and they're being pushed on someone's books that don't quite fit for us. So I think that would be the one.
Laurence, it's been fantastic talking to you. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks so much for answering all our questions and giving us some positive news amongst all the doom and gloom out there. The feeling your inbox might be filling up this afternoon for everybody who's been watching. So thanks very much again. And thank you to everybody else for tuning in and sending in questions. We really hope you found it useful. As I promised, we did some research earlier this week into media habits during the lockdown. In fact, it's part of what we're doing at the moment. We're offering an omnibus survey every week where people can ask as little as one question to find out, just get the mood of the nation really, to find out an area that you might be interested in going in. And our research was very interesting. It showed that while physical newspaper sales are down, probably because people are not going out and going to newsagents, there's a bigger thirst than ever for information and entertainment. So a couple of the top lines that I spotted were that 46% of the general population, as I think Laurence was just saying, 46% are consuming more digital news, more digital content. 26% are listening to the radio more. 54% are watching more TV. I think this will all be music to Laurence's ears. 39% are using social media more. And another interesting thing, which picks up on what Laurence was saying about the lighter content, 77% of people in Britain say they want to watch or read uplifting and fun content to take their mind off the current crisis. And leading on from that, 31% say they're actually a bit fed up with reading about COVID-19. I think there's almost a bit of overload, too much to take in, too much, read too much of it, and it does really get you down. And a bit of a PR-centric line here, 59%, so almost 2/3 of the population, say they'd be interested in a brand that put out a non-corona story. So interesting stuff there. I think that all points to some positive opportunities. So feel free to catch up with any of the team at 4Media if you need some help or some insight and further ideas from those stats, or if you just need to put a question out there into the field, then we can help. Anyway, hope to see you next time for the next 4Media Q&A next Friday. In the meantime, as ever, look after yourself and stay safe. Bye-bye. You there, Sam, still?